Now, I think there's a couple of schools of thought here. What's the problem on defense? Is it the and this has been the I think kind of the question, guys, that has been at the forefront of a lot of our minds over the last, you know, frankly, 5 to 7 years. Watching this team, this program play defense. Is it the players or is it the coaching? Now you're in a spot where you've had over these last 5 to 7 years, you've had Mike Stoops as a defensive coordinator. You've had Ruffin McNeil in an interim role. Um, as a defensive coordinator. You've had Alex Grinch as a defensive coordinator, and then now you have some sort of combination of Brent Venables and Ted Roof as a defensive coordinator at Oklahoma, and you're seeing similar results each and every year. With this year arguably statistically being the worst of all of them. Right. Oklahoma is statistically one of the worst teams defensively in the country. I think certainly one of the worst defensive teams in the Big 12, right there with West Virginia. But I think if you take everything, if you take everything into consideration, Oklahoma is probably the worst performing team defensively in the Big 12, holistically. So, um, so what is it? And I think where you have to where you have to look at this, guys, is I think over the last few years it has been some sort of combination of both of them. You can't put a ton of blame on Venables and Ted Roof and the defensive staff that he's built this year because by and large he's playing with a lot of players and with a scheme of players that don't necessarily fit that scheme. So you have to be able, as frustrating as it is for everyone to see, you have to a certain degree give this staff and give this year a bit of a pass. Just because, as I mentioned, just because he doesn't have his players in there. Yeah, it's disappointing. It's way worse of a performing defense than I ever thought that we would see out of a Brent Venables coach defense, right? I think going into the season, I thought this Oklahoma team had a chance to be top 30 overall defensively. Thought that we would have some games that we might struggle, maybe a Kansas State game here and there, maybe a Baylor game here and there. But I think overall, I think this has been highly, highly disappointing in where Oklahoma is right now. So you can't put a ton of blame on Brent Venables right now. You can't put a ton of blame on the defensive coaching staff right now. Now, if we're at this point next year and this team is performing at the same level defensively, then you can start to put some blame on what this coaching staff looks like. But I think everybody has to kind of stay the course and be patient and see what does this defensive recruiting class end up looking like at the end of the day. Um, could they pull a shocker and somehow get DJ Hicks to flip from Texas A&M back to Oklahoma? Does he bring some guys with him? What does that class end up like, right? So look at that. Look at what happens in the portal. I think you're going to see a lot of guys, for lack of a better word, processed this year that don't really fit this scheme, that are going to look elsewhere. Um, for different areas, and just increasing the talent in this team on this team, and the guys that Oklahoma needs to have to run this Brent Venables style of defense from a coaching perspective.